Hey everyone, so today we're going to be talking about managed webhooks. But before we dive into that, what is a webhook? Well, a webhook is a way for Shopify or any other service that offers it to send you data asynchronously so you don't have to call their API. So rather than having to call Shopify's API every day, every hour to get product updates, for example, Shopify can send it to you whenever it changes inside of its platform. So you've got less API calls to make and less to manage. Um, Previously, this was all done via GraphQL and admin APIs to create and manage these subscriptions. You might have had some code that looked like this in your application. So this creates a webhook and sends it to a specific URL. But now Shopify has introduced managed webhooks, which means that you don't have to do any of this anymore. Instead, what you can do is configure this in your TOML file. So you can see now that for my application, I'm listening to uninstall and subscription updated events, and those are automatically going to be sent to this URL. Why is this helpful? Well, this means that now if you ever change that URL, you don't have to go and update it on all of the stores that have your app installed, which previously would have been time consuming and you would have had to loop over every single store and change them. Now Shopify will do all of that for you behind the scenes, so you don't have to manage any of that anymore. So it saves you code and less things that can go wrong when someone's installing your app, as that's when you'd need to set these up previously. But there's some really cool things that you can do with them. So you can start customizing them. So that was a simple setup where I'm listening to all app uninstalls and app subscription updates, but actually you can customize them. So in this example here, you can see that you can start filtering down the webhooks you're receiving. So here, if you only want active products and they're a specific product type, you can start filtering them down. So rather than getting overwhelmed with lots of webhooks, you can actually filter those down on Shopify's side now and let Shopify take care of it. So you only get the webhooks and updates that you care about, which is incredibly powerful because before that would have cost you money in wherever you're hosting your application, and also you would have had to write code to do it. Whereas now you can push it all into Shopify's TOML file and filter that down so you only get the updates you care about. Alongside that, you can also choose what fields you listen to. So if you're listening to products, for example, or you're listening to orders, they can be quite large JSON objects. So if you're not using a lot of those fields, you can filter them down like so. And so you can only listen to the fields that you care about. So here, if status changes or product type changes, those will trigger a webhook to be fired. Similarly, with if the price changes or title changes of the variant, you can also get updates when those happen as well. So that allows you to control what fields you get, but also when you get those webhooks as well. That also gives you some really good capabilities. So for example, if you are receiving product updates or order updates and you care about getting every single update out of Shopify, you're going to care about including the fields that you want, because Shopify will debounce your webhook. So it will attempt to deduplicate it on Shopify's side. But if you need every single occurrence of this, then you want to make sure you're including the field like updated at, so that every single time a webhook fires, a field that will be unique will be included, so that you'll get every single update from Shopify rather than getting only the updates that Shopify has deduplicated. And that's important if you're updating something like Algolia or some other system that requires those auto updates. And then Shopify do a great job of explaining that here. What does that look like when you subscribe to them? Well, it looks slightly different in the dashboard than you might be used to. So here's an example where you can see that now, rather than having a subscription ID, which you would have had previously, you've got config managed instead, indicating that that's now managed via your TOML file. And so that's a useful way to tell if anyone's still running on the old webhooks or if you need to migrate them to the new ones. It also brings us on to the topic of migrations. So if you create your webhooks in GraphQL before, and then you've set them up in the TOML file, there is no automatic migration. So you're going to have to remove those webhooks that you previously had installed and move them over to the config managed ones, which shouldn't be too hard. You'll probably have a script to do this already or update those webhooks anyway. So moving over shouldn't be too difficult, but it is something to watch out for because you could end up with duplicate webhooks, one coming from your GraphQL subscription and one coming from the config managed one while you're doing that changeover process. So it's important consideration while you're migrating over. This is one of the really cool new features. It requires you to be on managed installs, so that's a little bit of a gotcha, so just bearing that in mind. But that should be a fairly straightforward process to migrate over, as we talked about previously. It's really cool that they're offering this, and I think we'll start to see more managed features coming. So hopefully everyone can take advantage of them.